Hello and welcome. Today's date is the completion of the 24th day of January 2020. My name is Derek and this is the Money Charts channel, where always, all bets, trades of the like, within each's own risk and their own reward. We'll take a look at Bitcoin and then followed up there after that within Theta. So then let's start this off here on BTC. And right now we're going to take a look at the daily chart, but a lot of periods, the max that I can put on here, which goes back to like 350, just a beautiful uptrend up to 20K. And that was from like around 200, or it did about a 200x move from the lows. And it comes down to the support, and this high is lower than this, significantly, noticeably. A little bit of space from here to here, but the space now from here to here, much larger of one, which means that this correctionary move to come from point low of the $3,000 lows to the high it has reached up to 13, a percentage, of course, to the previous high of 20. That was a much better move compared to the high of this 20 from this low, which of course has now come down to here. Now this could be lower. Is this going to be another failed breakout? What is its history, at least from this high, in an attempt of getting above the 18 average? And what was the situation back then like? For the first time it failed, I guess you can count this in here as well, but we'll ignore that one. This one was after an uptrend had really gone to a sideways consolidated period, like the high end, the first level. And it failed, of course, to reach that previous high. But it did manage to successfully hold the support. I don't really count this as much of an attempt to break it because, I mean, this wasn't much of getting above the highs. And really all it did was flatten the 18 and thus failing in here. Small little attempt in here, but nothing of note. But this was a big attempt, which ultimately had a big fast move. And now we have this one here. Big move. So therefore, short-term analysis states this key high or this key low. The must hold 61.8% area where we come from. And we know that where we stand now, if it breaks down, that's pretty much the area where you think a new leg would go lower, or the next leg down. So therefore, looking at this more in depth, this is now we're on the third day. We've had 2 days testing within these lows in here. I'm just going to draw a little line in here, because if I'm going to do this, then I can maybe go the hourly time frame. This was the general direction of where the 18 average of lows was throughout our intraday session, at least going down into yesterday morning, so the last couple of days. It comes to the 18 lows, and it only supports it within this first hour, and then for 2 more hours after that, and then resisting it, falling, breaking below it. Several periods then going below in here. Nice little resisting it, but we can see on a short term that there was a failed breakdown, and that failed fast move is failing as well now. For this is your failed breakdown. It goes down below a key level of support. It quickly gets back to where it came from, and in this case, it shoots it and usually makes a new significant high, which is exactly what it did. So the key now, of course, is holding. The first area is this area, and that failed immediately. And then this area here, and that's failed in here, past tense, present tense, and it's on its second post period from the big event here. Yeah, it's still above this high, and it could recover, and definitely, most certainly, would be a 61.8 pierce below. But you can't be too optimistic that this. You have to look at this now as a big failed breakout. That's what I'm looking at this as the more probable event moving forward as we head into All-Star Weekend. All-Star Weekend, and I'll put the chart up for Theta. And yeah, All-Star, I've done a lot of changes, of course, and really I'm pretty much gambler my whole life. You might not know that, but it's something that I've done, and I like to find an edge or a advantage player, advantage gambler, as people have been mentioning them as names of about. Trying to find a good way of saying that. basically just having the edge. And in market trading, back when I first was learning this stuff, it was 2007. At that point, poker was my game, and winning games was easy. And one of my friends came up to me and mentioned about markets, gold, silver, stocks, the Dow Jones, S&P, all that type of stuff. And I never ever clued into the fact that you can trade this stuff, markets, and think of look at like a casino. Casino, that's just something I've been affiliated with before, and I've been to several in my life. But gambling games where you go in, okay, I'm going to bet this. You try to build a bankroll. That's what it comes down to. For me, I've been doing a lot of fantasy bankroll within what's been hockey. But on Saturday, there is a hockey all-star game, which means the metagame is a lot different. So is there any type of edges that I could find? I spent the last few days finding it. Oh, damn right. We'll see how the results come through. But heavily in my favor. Football has an all-star game on Sunday afternoon, and well, same thing. Heavily in my favor. We'll see how the results come in on Sunday. But within that, that's this to me here, this market. The reason why I'm saying it, obviously just because it's obviously my channel, but risk reward management. Understand that there's a lot of games out there, and that this is now my part-time job doing a lot of these market things. And let's move on. When we have this high, which is like nothing, when you look at it this way, ooh, big move, but volatility is low. And what we'll do is we'll take a look at this soon. I'll multiply this by 100 for two reasons. One, because of the log scale. Two, because I want to draw on that one, because I don't want to move these lines. And the Fibonacci lines have totally been where it has been consolidating. Because for how it's worth, if it's in the upper end, it's bullish. Neutral end, the situation is neutral, and below here bearish. So it's held on to not going into bearish territory by supporting this really on three different occasions in or near the 11 and a quarter mark. But at the same time, it has continuously resisted since it broke down below, and it didn't support it on its first try on December the 22nd. It resisted it for 2 days on the Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. It did so again the last 2 days of the calendar year. It did so on January the 2nd, and for several days in a large pierce above January 4th through that of the 6th. It got rejected. A couple days later on January the 9th, it comes up to it, resists it. Big. It resists and supports both of them on January the 14th. And then the big move. It comes close to it on the 17th and 18th of this level, but not quite, and it pierces well above it. Basically 5 days ago. A couple days, it's just hanging in there. And then this is huge on the 22nd. What we see is that it has that break above that resistance after 3 days of successful consolidation. And the immediate rejection. Now, a lot of these coins are all going down together, so you can take it for what it's worth. But even at the same point that it did get rejected, but it looked like, it was going to go up. And you talk about, where good stops are. And I'm not playing the game in this fashion, but I do see how this 18, which is have this little bit of decline, starts the flattening out. The first stage from flattening band is trying to establish an uptrend, establishing resistance. So that's what it's done. So this is totally in stage 3 type of market conditions that I'm looking for. And the 18 average, if this does hold the area, we go up from here, well, then definitely on the break. But if you're looking for edges, sometimes you want to wait for that, like 1320, 1400. That's a situation here. If it goes up towards this level, then maybe it looks probable that it might have some significant moves. Now, with that being stated, I'm going to, and the fact that I'm going to look at the 18 average in here, what I want to do is multiply this by 100 and draw a line on it. I've already done it, so I'm going to bring up the and I've already drawn a line in here. Now, the reason why I'm doing that is I want to take a look at those last couple of days in here and see how this level has been on support. And what we can see is on the 22-hour stamp, 10 p.m. Eastern Time on January the 23rd, or basically about 24 hours ago, the price had a big break going down below this level of support. And right to that level, rallied up, then came back down, but it retested successfully. Now, since that point, it has had a decent amount of time within this neutrality consolidation period. It's close to about a half a day, dozen periods, if not a couple more. And what we're seeing over the last one that completed, that it was kind of bearish at this level. It does seem as if we probably will have another test of this, and I'd be looking at this as weak support, meaning maybe it finds support, maybe it doesn't. And if it does, there's probably a good chance that the best we're going to do is just come back and resist this area we came from, maybe up to about 12 and a quarter. So we might only get a push of like maybe 3%, 2%. It's like, yeah, not much at all. That's definitely a concern. But I do see this as a bearish pattern because it's had a decent amount of time in here. This is the stage where it neutralizes the situation very effectively. So here we see, looking to possibly try to get things going. Come back, no problem. There's another attempt to break it out, another attempt in here. Just all of these attempts with this prolonged time shows me that it didn't get the job done type analysis. And within this, I wouldn't be surprised if, as we move forward, that the next several periods is a good chance we're going to test this low. And the mathematical likelihood it does well there, I don't think is that great, because it's test number 3. Test 1, quick move up and higher, because we're on big volatility, only takes a couple periods to go down. Then you have, you settle out the situation, and as I mentioned, the selling out didn't look so good. This probably, it won't be as fast as this in here. Maybe we spend like 6, 7, 8 periods hanging around this area. Then it falls down. But you're also at the risk where it comes down here and there's not much at all. And the next period that goes below this is a big red candle. And next thing you know, we're starting to talk about prices coming back down to this area where we came from, which would basically be your next level of support. So we're looking at like 11 low change, 1120. That's where we were before. From where we stand now, that's about 1,000 point differential. That's near, but not quite 10% of a decline. So now if you go back to this and take a look at the volatility, and that looks just weird, so we go like that. See these moves, the size of what's been going on in here. It's not as, you can see the log scale is a bit better here, but the volatility movements hasn't been in play. At any given time, things like this can happen. An okay amount of time in this correctionary move. This was a nice prolonged event. Within it, a move on the way. Okay, not bad. There's been some failed attempts. So how long? It's been a long amount of time. A decent period where it has, well, when you state after the fact, I could look back at this in 2023 as an example and say, yeah, well, back in 2019, at the end of the year in 28, or rather, end of the 2018, it did this. Started 2019 off that. Then cryptos were going down for like, this was during the bear market. And for all of 2019, it didn't do much. It had some runs. And then maybe at 2020, maybe midway through 2020, at some point it had this. Might be some sort of big like individual tick that goes like this. Maybe have some even bigger prolonged event. I don't know. I think there's a decent chance those do happen. And when they are there, I'm going to be there for the situation. And when ratio trading comes in, it means selling on when markets tell me to sell because they're worth a lot. Meaning, I divide this by another coin, or another coin by this. And when Theta overperforms one by a decent amount, then I'm going to sell Theta for that. And when we have situations that look like this and look like this, then it's probable that's going to be the case. And then when they go back down after the move, then, all the Theta you sell in here, well, you buy it back. And then if you sell it against Bitcoin in here, using the buy low, sell high strategies that I've talked about, yeah, they work, but in here you just can't pick away at much. Either don't trade at all, or you're just getting very low amounts of small percentage moves. Maybe before you love getting a good volatility, and because the market conditions are so bad, it's all about the small ones. Now the statement on this is huge. It's clear that a big play is happening soon, I think. It could either be up or down, and I know that's the easy way of saying it. Of course it's going to go up or down, but saying that a big play is happening is interesting, but it's obvious. This level of support that it's had is so into this resistance area range. For it to have the rally that it did and to be able to hold it for a decent amount of time like this, Well, that's what it needs to do. And bear markets can take a long time to heal. And it's already been a long time. That if this gets going now, I'll be like, yeah, it was a long time. But you have this high move like this, support this area when you have the break. And if you have a spot that starts to break above here, wow. Another way of looking at this, if you want to get your best risk and reward, I don't want to buy into any bet until this gets even above 1,700 because, yeah, if this thing breaks out, this thing can go up here, but it ain't going to get to 5,000 until it gets to like 1,888 first. And if this thing fails and only gets up to 1,600, then, well, it's not going to get to 1,800, meaning it's one way of protecting yourself from this. You think it's going to go up, and of course it doesn't. And that's big because it's an obvious failed breakout move. If this level fails, and it's probably not going to be good. Yeah, there could be a bit of support here. I say all this all the time, weak support, weak resistance, but this would most certainly be in that category. But for me, it's been a while. I've been planning on buying back in here. It's like, okay, I have my 700 to Satoshi Theta buys ready. I mean, when it gets to that level, the strategy of what I was going to do to buy. Of course, it never happened because it supported 900 low change, and it has for quite some time. But now it's supporting 1141. That's the upgrade, and that's the failed move if this doesn't work. It has this newly rising 18 in this set. It might succeed. It might not. Thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.